little bit about my story and who I am, just so you guys know where I'm coming from. My name is Alex Berry, and I am lucky enough to have gone through many of my own career transitions. Coming from an interesting kind of academic background, that's a little business, a little engineering, a little bit of intercultural work, and a little bit of global work. Probably in the last 5 or so years, I've had so many interests, so many passions, and that's ended up in 7 different roles. There's also been a lot of skill and skill development that I've learned both on the technical side of things as well as the financial side. But a lot of those skills tend to boil down into the sort of 3 superpowers that are the ties, if you will, between all of those different roles. Superpowers like the ability to translate between different types of people and different types of personalities. The ability to go and to really think strategically and not just get lost in the day-to-day work, and the ability to really gamify different types of really kind of boring and complex concepts. So when we're teaching things or when we're talking about really tough things like career development, how can we make it a little bit more fun? How can we make it a little bit more engaging and make it a little bit less of staring at someone else's slide? So hopefully I'll be able to bring that in a little bit today. And then finally, had a lot of different projects over the last 4 or 5 years, but it really does go boiling down into sort of one career, even when some of those different career goals or career milestones, which diving into that just a little bit deeper, most of my corporate career has gone and been in big companies, right? Big pharma, big chemical, big toilet paper, if you're familiar with Georgia Pacific. And of course, one of my current roles right now with Intel as a technical program manager over in the global supply chain. One of the things about navigating these bigger companies as well is always this idea of you're kind of always thinking about both what your next move is, as well as how you can sort of build a bridge between your current roles or your previous roles and where you want to go next. Beyond that, I think it's always really important and helpful for anyone to know that, I'm coming from Southwest Georgia. So you're going to hear me say a lot of things like y'all, and you'll hear lots of fun contractions. And outside of corporate work, outside of going and running a small business or doing fun presentations like this, you'll oftentimes find me doing things outside, from scavenging for berries and looking for food with friends on local farms to playing soccer and basketball. Now that we're done with that, now that you know a little bit about me, I want to talk about what we're going to really be going over today. And it really kind of breaks up into these sort of 4 or 5 main sections. We've gone through a bit of the intros, and I'm going to go and get a little bit of information about you all, who you are, who we're talking to, who we have online, just so I have a better sense of our audience. And we're going to be doing lots of different types of dynamic polling. I'll be asking you all lots of questions. So hopefully it'll be more of a conversation as we go back and forth and a little bit less of me talking. From a content standpoint, we're going to go and kind of talk about the sort of 5 big steps, as we like to break it down in terms of making that career transition. We're going to talk and spend a lot of time on one of those steps, what we kind of call the research phase, or sort of the 3 big buckets of things that we think that you all should consider as you're making that career transition. We're going to spend a little bit of time around different types of action planning, and we have some sort of pre-prepared worksheets and that you all will be able to take away from this workshop. If you aren't able to go and to finish those during the time we have here, completely fine. And then as we go through, we're going to have plenty of time for questions. So thank you all so much in advance for the questions you'll ask us. And hopefully that'll make this a really fun and engaging workshop. All right, so let's get started on our career development journey. Now, for many of you, when you think about going to the next phase of your career, or even just thinking about what the next phase of your career might look like, you might be really excited, or you might be like myself, where I tend to go and get really excited in my head, but my actions kind of look like this, right? Laying on the couch in a giant Chipotle blanket and just kind of thinking to myself, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll start thinking about the process tomorrow. However, for me, it can be really helpful to go and kind of break up the really sort of disgusting kind of ambiguous career transition process into some very, very clear and sort of actionable phases or actionable steps. And what we like to go in and teach at CMD is that there's really 5 or so phases or 5 or so process steps. The first one, and we're actually going to touch upon this today, is the idea of kind of empathizing and understanding where you are right now, what type of things that you like about your current role, what types of things that energize you about your current role. And that role might be a formal job or a formal career path. It might also be a understanding of how your work and your life balance out. That second phase then is really about the things and the research you need to do and the considerations you need to have for understanding what your next role should look like. That third stage is all about preparing professional stories. And when I say professional stories, I mean the resumes, the LinkedIn, the cover letters, the interview preparation, right? All that disgusting stuff. That fourth phase is really about executing the transition, right? Executing the transition, being able to kind of minimize the risk once you actually find that opportunity and once you actually kind of take that leap of faith. And then that fifth step is to celebrate. One of the things that I don't think that we've done enough during this pandemic is being able to go and actually build in time to celebrate the small wins. And really here within this fifth step of the celebrate, that's really where it's helpful to actually go and have that sort of, once we finish this process, once we finish this transition, what does that celebration look like to you? Now, in this workshop, we're going to mostly cover steps 1 and steps 2. In one of our previous workshops we did with Democracy Labs, we talked a lot about the actual action steps to go through to prepare those professional stories. And then the executing transition, the celebration piece, those are really things that many of us can actually do on our own, and we'll help give you the tools and resources to do that after this workshop. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about step 1. Now, what we're going to actually go and do for this is we're going to go and I'm going to throw a link into the Jamboard chat, into the Zoom chat, and we're going to go and you all are going to join me on a Google Jamboard. So give me 1 second as I go and I flip to this and I'm going to throw this link into the chat. And let's see. Into chat. And we're using a few different softwares here, so stay with me on this one. And so folks, please feel free to go and hop into that Google Jamboard chat. I'm seeing that Anonymous Grizzly is joining and a few other anonymous creatures. So again, feel free to go ahead and click onto that Jamboard chat. And what you're going to do once you kind of hop in here is I want everyone to just take just maybe 2 to 4 minutes. And I want you to think about this question of where are you now in your career? That might be a role. That might be in terms of the time that you put into a job. It might be in terms of happiness. This is kind of an open-ended question. And I just want you to go and to pick one of these yellow stickies. It doesn't matter which. Click into that sticky note and just kind of type the answer to that question. Where are you now? To give you all an example of that for myself, right now I am I'll say an emerging small business owner. As one of the examples of kind of like my kind of where am I now, speaking with my CMD hat on. Now, after you all have gone and answered that question, you're going to come over here to this sort of other section where it says, where do you want to go? And for some of us and for purposes of this workshop, I don't know is going to be a completely valid answer, but that answer to this question might also look like looking for an opportunity working less hours, looking for an opportunity working more hours, looking for an opportunity in XYZ industry. Or for some of you, it might be much, much, much more specific. So for example, for myself, I might go and add in here. Let's say, hiring 4 full-time staff members for small business. So again, for those of us who are participating here, remember, feel free to go into, you're going to have an entry of a yellow bucket answering kind of a question of sort of where are you now within your career. And then we're going to go and get a short answer to the question over here on the right-hand side of where do you want to go. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to rearrange some of these sticky just a little bit here just so we can see what we have. And don't worry, friends, most of this is relatively anonymous, so completely fine. If any of the information you share, if you feel like it might be a little bit more sensitive. And so I'll give a little bit more time for us to go into kind of complete this activity. And again, just do 2 broad probing questions, but where are you now and where are we trying to go? Some of the things I'm seeing here is, I'm seeing things related to, project implementation, business relations coordinator, leader of a bootstrapping tech nonprofit. I love that. Freelancer looking for better opportunities, emerging small business leader. Nice, nice. And as we see how that goes and transfers to where some of these folks are looking to go, increasing, hiring more full-time staff members, looking for meaningful products for users to solve problems for people. I love that. That definitely sounds like a UI UX person right there. Growing revenue, and really over here kind of like making the business work, if you will, particularly in the nonprofit world. Ooh, and then this one that just went and got finished just in time. And we're seeing here, this idea of, we have some intentions, we have some thoughts of sort of the direction we want to go, but not a precise destination. And so hopefully in the next section that we go into, we'll go and we'll see if we can put some language around those intentions and some better language around exactly what that direction might go and be. So thank you all so much for walking with me through this. It's always a good place to start by sort of seeing where you are and seeing what kind of language we need to go and add into this.